The sun hung low above the airport horizon, bleeding gold and amber across the enormous windows. Travelers paused for a moment just to admire the scene, but for Ryan, the sunset meant something entirely different. It felt like a sign. A quiet whisper in the middle of the noise. A moment that demanded a choice. He stood near gate 47 with his boarding pass in hand, the flight number blinking brightly on the screen. He had spent the last 5 years running to projects, to deadlines, to film shoots, to anything that kept him moving long enough to avoid the stillness he secretly feared. The stillness reminded him of everything missing in his life. But today wasn't like any other day. Somewhere between the morning chaos and the quiet of the afternoon, a moment had happened. A moment that changed the pace of his entire world. It started with a camera slipping from a stranger's hands. A gentle collision, a shared laugh, a nervous apology, and then the kind of conversation that feels like it had already been waiting to happen for years. Aaliyah, a travel photographer with a smile that warmed people faster than sunlight. Someone who didn't just take pictures, she preserved human emotions in frames. The type of person who could stand in silence and still make it feel like the most meaningful moment of the day. Their encounter had been accidental, but the connection that followed felt deliberate. Natural, effortless. They spent hours together at the terminal, waiting for delayed flights. They talked about dreams, about their fears, about the places they hoped to see someday. Aaliyah spoke about the villages she photographed, of children who ran barefoot through dust roads, of mountains that changed colors with the rising sun, of moments she captured that were never staged. She believed life was made of small unplanned miracles. Ryan had laughed at that, insisting things only felt meaningful when captured through the perfect cinematic lens. Yet somehow, her words stayed with him. Now he stood in front of the gate, torn between the life he knew and the story that had unexpectedly begun to unfold. Just a few feet away, Aaliyah sat by the window, her camera on her lap, lost in the sunset. She didn't know he was watching her. She didn't know that with every second passing, the weight inside his chest grew heavier. He looked down at his ticket again. His flight was boarding, people lined up, scanning their passes with casual indifference. But his heart wasn't moving him toward the line. It was moving him toward her. Every meaningful story he'd ever filmed began with one brave decision, one step away from routine toward something unknown. He had captured love on screen countless times, but he had never truly lived it. He knew it, he felt it, and for the first time in years, he wanted to stop running. He walked away from the gate. Aaliyah looked up just as he approached, her eyes soft with curiosity. "What are you doing?" she asked, her brows lifting in surprise as she noticed the boarding pass still in his hand. Ryan exhaled slowly, letting the truth settle between them. "I cancelled my flight." Her breath caught. "Why would you do that?" He sat beside her, the warmth of the sun glowing across both their faces. "Because sometimes, the best stories aren't the ones we chase across the world. They're the ones we almost walk past. The ones that find us when we aren't looking." He paused, his voice gentler now. "I'm choosing a better story. The one I found with you." For a long moment, Aaliyah didn't speak. She looked at him, truly looked, past his words, past the suddenness of his decision, straight into the sincerity in his eyes. And then, slowly, a smile unfolded on her lips. Not the fast kind people use to hide emotions, but the slow, warm kind that grows from the heart outward. She glanced back at the sunset. "You know, I wasn't supposed to be here today either." Her voice softened. "My original flight was yesterday. But something made me stay an extra day. I thought it was work. Now I'm not sure." Ryan turned toward the window, the light reflecting in his eyes like liquid gold. "Maybe it was this. Maybe we were both supposed to be here." The airport around them buzzed with announcements, rolling suitcases, laughter, and hurried footsteps. But their little corner felt still, like time had stretched itself just for them. Like the universe had paused long enough to give them a moment to choose each other. Aaliyah leaned back, letting her head rest lightly against the cold glass. "It's crazy," she whispered, "how someone you didn't know existed in the morning can suddenly feel like a chapter you've been missing." Ryan smiled. "It's not crazy, it's timing. Life keeps giving us chances, but we ignore most of them." She looked at him again, eyes deeper than before. "And what if this is just a moment? What if it's temporary? Then," he said gently, "let's make it a moment worth remembering. But if it's not temporary, then it's the beginning of something neither of us planned. And that's even better." For once, she didn't argue. She didn't overthink, didn't analyze the future. She just breathed in the warmth of the moment and allowed herself to feel it fully. Outside, the sun slipped lower, touching the edge of the horizon with fading intensity. It painted long, soft shadows on the floor, and for a moment, their silhouettes merged into one. Aaliyah lifted her camera, turning it toward Ryan. "Smile," she murmured. He laughed. "Why?" "Because." She focused the lens. "I want to remember the moment your story changed." He didn't pose. He didn't adjust his expression. He just looked at her. Really looked, and in that unguarded second, she captured him. Not as a filmmaker, not as a traveler, but as a man finally choosing something real. She lowered the camera slowly. "So, what now?" Ryan shrugged lightly, but his eyes were sure. "Now we see where this goes. Maybe we explore the city together. Maybe we get coffee. Maybe we miss every flight today. I don't care. What matters is that we don't walk away from this moment." Aaliyah felt her heartbeat settle into something calm and warm. "Okay," she whispered. Together, they stood up from the quiet corner of the airport. No plans, no flights, no deadlines, just a decision, simple but powerful. They walked side by side, blending into the flow of people. But unlike everyone else rushing to leave, they were choosing to stay. To explore a story unfolding in slow motion, lit by the final rays of a golden sunset. And sometimes, that's all destiny needs, two people brave enough to pause long enough for the universe to write its next beautiful chapter.